Do you feel that it is our responsibility to make other people happy? Well, to be honest, I think some people really think that it's everyone else's jobs to make them happy. But in this video, I kind of want to refute that mindset or that perspective, while also providing a bit of caveats to where it might be beneficial to make other people happy. Anyway, the first thing I want to go into is kind of how everybody being happy all the time is almost like this dystopian perspective. It's like, okay, everyone has to be bubbly and cheerful and excited all the time about every single thing. There is no room for introspection or reflection on what may have gone wrong in the past. Instead, we're all going to be joyful and happy. And there is also no room for mourning about what has passed. We are always happy and in the moment. And we can kind of see that with this, in that this is now the new face of the dystopian future. You can kind of see it in the beady and the eyes that don't really have much there. But again, there is also the fact that it's almost tyrannical for a person to expect other people to just exist to make them happy. Like to just be clapping like seals whenever they walk into the room because they're them. And I think the thing is there's almost this difference between being happy and actually having this lasting joy, contentment, and peace. In that, hey, things are going good in my life. There's not really something that I'm really excited and bubbly about, but things are good. And again, going back to that thing where people expect people to basically almost worship the ground they walk on, it's like there should be room to have the perspective of, hey, I actually don't really hate what you did, but I'm not exactly excited about it either. I'm just kind of meh about it. I just don't really have an opinion on it. So it's one of those things is like leave room for the response to be meh and you being okay with that and also realizing that if people aren't okay with the meh response, it's kind of like probably not really our problem in a sense. It's like they just want to be affirmed and validated in whatever they do. They don't want to have anything seen as less than because they've conflated our opinions of what they do with our opinions of them, which can actually be different in most aspects or most areas. Is that why I want to go with that? But anyway, I think the other side to this, or at least the key takeaway, is comes from the Declaration of Independence, where it's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, not the right to happiness. And again, some people seem to think that the right to happiness is the most important, but first we actually have the life and liberty. Because unfortunately, some people's pursuit of happiness may actually get in ways of other people's life and liberty, so it comes to a question of what's more important. And if everyone's happiness is so important, then would we end up living in this gilded age where it looks nice and pretty and is exciting, but there's not actually much to do or not actually much to experience? We're just stuck in this little cage that looks, again, nice. It might actually be comfortable, but is that really living? Because we just experience this happiness all the time. And I think the other side to that is that when you actually want to protect someone's life, you almost start to value their liberty when you have valued their life. And the thing is that once someone's life and liberty are secured, they're almost always free to pursue happiness. So I think the founding fathers got it right in giving it in that order. In almost, like, I'm not sure if it was meant to be in order of importance, but I think it does work that way. But now let's get into the caveats in where it's actually good to seek to make people happy. And the first is actually when you're offering a product or service. Because the thing is, when you have a product or service you are offering someone, you want your customers to be happy and satisfied enough to give money for it. Because while we may not like to talk about it or as our reason for doing things, money does make a difference. Unless you have like a bartering system going on or a trade or whatever, you need money to provide for most of your needs. That's the way the world is nowadays. And so the thing is, we need to kind of be aware of that with the stuff we offer. Because again, when a customer isn't satisfied or feels they've been mistreated, then they might rage a bit and ditch you headlines maybe, but they might not pay for your stuff again, and they might actually turn other people off from paying for your stuff as well. So it's like, and now again, not every customer is actually wants to be happy. They almost want to be catered to and given everything on a silver platter. But again, most people are readily wanting to have a decent product and be happy or satisfied with it. Most people have reasonable expectations. So the key is to not let those few that just want everything done exactly to their specifications, when that isn't your job, template with all the other people who are actually pretty simple to make please, or to please and make happy, in a sense. Anyway, and now I might be getting flat for that, because it's like, you said you were a storyteller. How can you make it about the money? And I think there's this saying is where we conflate this, like doing art for, and doing it for the art and the accolades, where it's like that's how an artist should be. And the thing is, like, if you drew the starving artist perspective. Now the thing with that is that we can probably get a Patreon who supports us in what we do and is actually paying for our living. But if I actually want to make a living and provide for the people I care about, I either have to find that, or I need to get another job that pays for it, or I can find the balance between my audience, my customers, and the amount they want to pay. And again, when you widen the prospective customer base, you decrease the amount of money you need to get from each of them. And so you get more options. And again, they don't actually have to buy everything you do. They just have to generally like your stuff so that they are willing to keep buying your products at a decent pace as you put them out. And the other side to remember with this is that not everyone who has an opinion on something will actually be your customer. And I think the thing with this is that there are people who have, like, how should I say this? There are some people who have a lot of opinions, and they like the idea of something more than they actually like paying for something. So again, when you have stuff like art where it can be transferred digitally, you have a lot of people who will do stuff that, or encourage stuff that they actually won't pay for, because they can just get it off the internet later. And you can kind of almost test this by basically doing this, following the story I remember, in that you can basically offer a product and basically say, hey, I'm surveying for this product and I want to know if it interests you. And you can basically list all the details to the person, and they just might say yes. And then you can say, hey, I got a few toppings in the car. I'll go grab one for you so you can pay for it right now. And then they might back off because, hey, they like the idea of it, but when they actually have to put the money where their mouth is, they may not actually be willing to do that. And that's important to remember, in that just because they're giving you accolades for what you've done, they may not actually be giving you the funds that you want to live with. And now the other side to this, well, the other area of kind of where we want to make people happy is in relationships. And there's kind of this saying where we want to, how should I say this? We want to be able to, it's not always about making them happy all the time. And again, we can't really mold our lives around making someone else happy. But what we can do is choose actions that do generally make another person happy. And then when we're in a relationship with someone, it's no longer about what makes us happy, but it's also about what makes us both happy, in a sense. And then sometimes there are areas where, yes, we might disagree on this and someone might have to give, or maybe we just have to agree to disagree. But there are also times when I actually don't have a stake in this, so I'm going to go with their opinion because it actually matters to them much more. And so that's what I'm going to choose. And again, we can also get into the fact that sometimes relationships are about actually having a target audience and appealing to that audience. So it's much less of, okay, I need to find someone who fits all my boxes, and also a question of, do I actually fit the kind of checklist of the person who fits my checklist? So it's kind of like, if you're looking for a 10, do you add up to a 10? At least that's how I like to think about it. And anyway, these are kind of my opinions on this, or my thoughts, and that while we don't actually want to mold our lives around making someone else happy, there are some areas where it's actually good to try to give the option to be happy to other people. Anyway, that's my take on that. If you have other thoughts or opinions you want to share, feel free to do so in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, you can like and share it so that others may enjoy it as well. Anyway, I'm Jonah, and you've been watching Lions Mane Media, where we celebrate stories and the lessons learned from them. Talk to you later, and have a great rest of your